Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're here to talk about my favorite of the Spider-Man films, where last time we talked about that poop fest Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now we're jumping into the Tom Holland films with the first one of his, Spider-Man Homecoming, my favorite of the Spider-Man films. I love this movie, so I'm going to gush about it quite a lot, so I hope you get ready. Before we get started, make sure you comment down below with what your thoughts are on this film, and like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so we can keep growing this bad boy out towards 200 subscribers as we get closer and closer. We're so close now. So close to Spider-Man No Way Home. But now, let's talk about the first film in this franchise, Homecoming. Of course, this film picks up after the events of Civil War, where we first meet Tom Holland Spider-Man, and that film basically establishes the connection with him and Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, which very much picks up in this film because he is very much he's not like Ward, so he's like not the Robin to Iron Man's Batman, but he's very much, looking up to Iron Man. Iron Man essentially becomes the Uncle Ben of this version of Spider-Man, because we get a couple subtle references to Uncle Ben. We get to see the briefcase with his initials on it that Peter has, but that's about it. Aunt May never brings it up, so Iron Man essentially takes his place as the father figure type role for this franchise, starring Tom Holland, who is just incredible as Spider-Man. He's the first Spider-Man and Peter Parker we have had that hasn't looked like a creep going to high school, looking 35, hanging out with the rest of the kids. Hello, my fellow kids. That's what the other two look like. Tom Holland actually looks like a kid now. What is it, 5 years later we're coming up on? That's crazy to think about. 5 years since this movie almost. He is starting to look more like a man, but at this point in time, he did very much look like a high school student, and it just you can feel it. Like, this film feels like a high school film. It's got like that John Hughes vibe, where as we follow Tom Holland's Peter Parker, Jacob Batalon's Ned Leeds, who is essentially Genki from the Miles Morales comic books, because Ned Leeds in the comic books is actually the Hobgoblin, but this is more like the Genki character, just with the Ned Leeds name. I think he's going to become Hobgoblin for some reason in Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't know why, but I feel like we're going to get the seeds planted for that with the Green Goblin showing up. We also have Zendaya coming in as MJ. Everyone knows MJ stands for Mary Jane, but they don't ever really call her that in this film. They're just MJ, and she's not the typical MJ. She's definitely not the Kirsten Dunst MJ. She's kind of like this, I don't want to say emo, but she's kind of like a secluded loner kid, and she always picks on Peter and Ned for being losers, but she's also kind of a loser, and you get Ned in this film, who's this rich douchebag, influencer kid, which is the current day bully, is the cocky douchebag influencer kid, so that makes a lot of sense how he's not beating up Peter Parker, but he's just making fun out of him, throwing jabs from the side. But this film also shows Ned's love for Spider-Man, which is very important to the early Spider-Man comic books, which I love. The only thing I don't really like about this iteration of Spider-Man is he gets a little too much handed to him from Iron Man. Like, I wish, like the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, we see him inventing stuff. You don't really get that with Tom Holland Spider-Man. They definitely make sure to tell you that he's smart, like he goes to all these academic competitions in this film with his friends, including Zendaya, but you don't really see him being like the smart kid. Iron Man does it all for him, essentially. He gives him this awesome suit, which does provide some cool moments, like with the instant kill moment, the different types of webs. When he gets locked in a warehouse, you get a fun montage of him learning this suit, and that's what this film really is. It is so much fun. I said before, it's got that John Hughes vibe. It's like a John Hughes superhero movie, and that's what Spider-Man should be. It should be, you get some Peter Parker hanging out with his buddies, and then you get, Spider-Man, and he's quippy. Andrew Garfield started with the quippiness because Tobey Maguire certainly didn't have it, but he keeps up with the quippiness. He has all the pop culture references, and of course he's in the larger MCU. You get one of the most famous Spider-Man scenes, kind of throwing it back to, almost calling back to the Spider-Man 2 scene when he's holding the train. You get that with Tom Holland Spider-Man, with a yacht is splitting apart, and he's trying to hold it together until Iron Man shows up and saves the day. The thing we haven't talked about yet is Michael Keaton playing the Vulture in this film. From Batman to Birdman to the Vulture, he loves the guys with wings. He is incredible in this film, possibly the best MCU bad guy outside of Thanos. My favorite scene in the entire MCU happens in this movie. It's the scene where Michael Keaton is driving his daughter and Peter to the prom, because they're going, I guess, the homecoming dance ticket, because they're going together, and then the daughter gets out of the car, and then Michael Keaton turns around, and just the stuff that happens between him and Peter, the performances from the actors, the script, oh my God, it just, every time I watch it, I could watch that scene all day, every day for the rest of my life and not get bored watching it. It's just incredible. And of course, he's the Vulture, so hijinks ensue after that. You know, that kind of leads to the big fight where you get another great scene of Spider-Man struggling under all this rubble, which has happened several iconic scenes in the comic book. So this film, I could gush about it forever, but I don't have all day long. So Spider-Man Homecoming is truly a great film. It's my favorite film in the entire Spider-Man franchise. I love it, not just because it's in the MCU, but just because it feels like Spider-Man. Outside, of course, of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, doing lots of the tech stuff for him. But outside of that, man, this film feels like a Spider-Man comic book, and that's what I always wanted from a Spider-Man film, and we definitely got it. So this is my favorite Spider-Man film. I give Spider-Man Homecoming a 9.5 out of 10. Not only is it the best Spider-Man film, it's one of the best films in the entire MCU. Next up, we'll be talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, as it's the next up in the Spider-Man release, and then we'll jump back in for Spider-Man Far From Home, and then we will be finally at Spider-Man No Way Home, which we'll have at least 1 or 2 videos on, I think, here on the channel for you guys. So make sure you guys stick around for all that by hitting that subscribe button and the notifications bell. Make sure you like the video and comment down below with what your thoughts are on Spider-Man Homecoming. Do you think this film stinks? Is this your least favorite? Do you hate Tom Holland as Spider-Man? Do you love it and agree with everything I said? Let's chat down in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys right here next time.